Hello, I'm Pat Connor with the Coding University, training humans to train themselves. And today what I want to talk about is hats. Hats, that's right. But basically, hats are just simply different aspects of yourself. Say you put on your planning hat, your strategizing hat, your engagement hat, your review hat, etc., etc. These are just things that you do. But when you have these hats, just like you do different things, you think different things, you're almost a whole different person when you put on these hats. Now, if you think about it, the first thing you do is maybe you set a goal. Okay, so you got a New Year's resolution, you're setting a goal for it. You strategize, okay, how am I going to do this? You figure out, do the planning, you figure out how to do it, then you set it up to do it. Then finally you prepare yourself or whatever needs to gauge in it. Then you check out the results, review them, and take on the next step. That's sort of how it all goes. And there's this acronym called the SMART goals, right? And SMART, you simply take SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-sensitive goals. And we definitely want to make sure we work on those, because one of the things about time-sensitive, you'll set a goal for specific time. When does it due? Because we tend to fill up enough time. If you're given so much time, you take that time to accomplish that goal. So if you want to do stuff, set it and be excited about it. Like, I want to get this done now, right? So set a goal and go for it, and make specific and get it done. Okay, so SMART goals, real good, real important goals, and all these things that I've just talked about, all these hats, so these specific doings that you're supposed to do to make things accomplishable. But I really want to focus today on the most important part of almost all of it, and that is, with all these specific, very logical things you're supposed to do, is that we're humans. Okay, we're humans. And I really learned to do these, shall we say, these goals when I was a substitute teacher. I would come in and there's supposed to be a lesson plan. Often there was, and you look at the lesson plan, and you said, okay, that's your objective, right? There it is. We want to get this accomplished, and there might even be a little plan on how to do it, strategize and plan. So I'd have to figure out how they wanted to accomplish it, and then I'd have to figure out how I was going to do it. So I strategize and plan and get that. Then I'd set up the classroom, and then I do it. Okay, and then at the end of the day, after I was done substituting for the day, I'd go home and then I'd review. Oh man, how did I do? Okay, and could I do better the next time? But you went through that process, and you got pretty good at setting a goal, or because sometimes you went into a classroom and there wasn't any specific goal, so you had to set your own goal. You had to figure out a strategy and plan. You had to set up the classroom. You had to figure out how you were going to do it and all your things, and then go for it, and you had to engage and accomplish it. So you got to do that over and over and over and over again. You got pretty good at it. Now, and that simply follows those SMART goals things. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. So we all can do those. But the human aspect of it, I still want us to come back to, because my wife was a teacher, and she was a much better teacher than I, because she could touch people. She was in elementary school, and you have to touch the children at that age to get them to feel good about themselves, to engage, because she took kids who felt they couldn't do school, and she turned them around where they felt they could do. They felt confident, they felt capable, etc., etc. So parent after parent came and told her, thank you, and that's really important. I think one of the times that I got it, you really got to understand how human nature is here a little bit. But humans, they need certain things. They need to belong. They need to feel important. They need to feel that they're capable. They need to feel all of those things, but they need to feel these things. And you need to connect. I was substituting as a librarian at an elementary school. And as a librarian at the elementary school, what you do is you get to, every hour, a new class comes into to the library to use it. So, and it would be first to not first, but all the different levels: kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and I think it was just up to fifth grade at this elementary school. I don't remember if sixth was there or not. But I remember the fifth grade class had a special reputation of being the worst. Okay, and the way that it would work at the library is that they would come in and they would line up at the door of the library, and then I would then allow them entrance into the library. And the fifth grade class was there, and it was being disruptive and everything. And somehow we got their attention, and then I started challenging some of the fifth grade boys, with some math. I was a math teacher, math and science, so this was no problem at all. And I challenged them with different things, and you could just see their eyes light up with the challenge. And it just hit me, is that these just kids, they have lots of energy, they're eager to learn, but they need to be challenged. If you don't challenge them, that energy is going to go someplace else. And so my goal was to challenge them. But you really got to get the eyes lighting up. I mean, I could just see it. I mean, I'd ask one student and I could see 4 or 5 of their, other guys, their eyes light up, and even some of the girls who tried to compete with these guys in math. Okay. But we were in there for a lot of different reasons. And that was my goal, is to always to challenge them, but challenge them where? Back to the SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable. They definitely can do it, right? And we had to accomplish it by the end of the class. But it had to be a challenge. It had to be phrased as a challenge. It had to be, somehow you had to make it challenging, exciting, fun. Okay? So one of the things about human nature is they actually, with all the flow and everything like that. Are you familiar with flow? Flow is basically when a lot of people sort of go unconscious and just, go into this unconscious mode where they can accomplish things. And there's sort of this peak where if it's too easy, it's boring. Okay. And then as the challenge goes up, the engagement goes up. Okay. And then if it gets too hard, it becomes overwhelming. Okay. So there's that peak challenge, right? And you sort of have to know what your challenge is. Where is it that you truly engage and really get excited about stuff? So I was an adult school teacher for many years, and I taught math and science. And one of the things in science, they always, at that time, they were always pushing experiments, and they'd have these boring experiments about that really nobody did anything, and if we did do something, they didn't work, and so the teacher would have to explain what was supposed to happen. So one year, I decided we were doing physical science, and the assignment was for they broke into groups. They weren't big groups, like 3 or 4 people, and they broke into groups, and their job was to go home and find some of these very simple scientific projects that elementary kids do, with levers, electricity or whatever, and they had to find them on the internet or find them in little books at the library. And their job, each one of these little experiments had to show one of our formulas or things that we were studying, and they were to go home, do the experiment themselves. Then they were to buy all the material so that 5 groups, I think it was 5 or 6, maybe 6 groups, could each do the experiment. Okay, so that each could do the experiment. So they would come in then and then explain and demonstrate the concept and the experiment. Then they would pass out all the equipment and help people get started and do the experiment themselves. We would then collect data, and then their job was to analyze. We'd graph the data on the board, and they would analyze it. Now, I was a little leery when I sort of assigned this, but I wanted something that they could do, okay, that actually gave results that were real, okay. But what I really was totally surprised by was the engagement. These people engaged. I don't know if I just picked the right person or what, but this group they presented the material. They were all excited about it. They had everything. They showed how it worked. They were excited. They passed out the stuff. They helped people get started. People engaged in it. We graphed it on the board, and it was. It wasn't perfect data, and there wasn't any right answers. It was like all little sloppy and stuff like that. But it was so exciting to see how it really worked and what real data looked like, and everybody got excited. And the next group, I don't know if they were challenged by this group, but they did great. Then the next group did great, and all all of them were just amazing, and how engaged with the students doing the experiment were. Because as we graphed them on the board, people were going, "Oh, my dad is here," when your dad, and they were talking about it, and it worked out so good. Now this follows the SMART goals, but the thing was, there's this human nature of where they felt capable. They chose it themselves. The experiment they did, it was theirs. They owned it, and it was so great. Okay, and when I substituted taught, there was another when I was doing math, we were doing these, I forget, some geometry or something weird, and it was like boring old math, right? Well, when you substitute, you sort of have to get them started. So I broke them into groups. I told them they couldn't talk to each other until they first had done 5 problems. Okay, so when they'd done 5 problems, they're supposed to raise their hand, and then they could then work with other students. And so there was like this challenge of who could do it, because they all wanted to talk to their friends and work with their friends. And if they completed certain number, then they could actually move and be with other students. And these are just the rules for junior highs. And it was just amazing how there was this drive to get through it, and there seemed to be even sort of a competition. And then one of the questions at the end says, well, can you do this another way? In other words, it was like, you've done something like this in your past before, can you do it another way? And all of a sudden, one group goes, we found another way to do it. You did? Okay. Oh, I found it too. And then the next thing was somebody says, well, I found a third way to do it. And they found 3 ways to do the same problem. And it was like, wow, this is so great to get the same answer 3 different ways. I was only thinking, we'll just do this, this one type of math and show them how to do it and get them to do their work. And that was the objective. But there was so much energy in the class. And it was... Anyway, the whole point is engagement, and the engagement of owning the problem, owning the work, and you have to set it up to make it happen. Let me just refer real quickly to, you might be familiar with OKRs. This is promoted by John Doerr. It's in businesses. Google uses it, and there's a lot of it. How does Google use it to become so successful? But if you read John Doerr's book, Measure What Matters, he also talks about CFRs. Now, CFRs, what are CFRs? Well, see, OKRs are like those SMART goals. They're very mechanical. They're very, smart, measurable, specific, measurable, break it down into groups, because that's what that does. You take this objective and break it down into something attainable, and then, it's time sensitive. You have to have it done by a certain date, and then you share it with a group so that everybody knows who's doing what and stuff like that. But CFRs talks about the human aspect of it. It says, hey, you're human. You're going to look at this goal and you go, can I do this? So basically it talks about how the manager goes in and works with his people and says, tell me about this, and tell me, why is this important to you? I mean, he gets to know these people. It says, get to know their dreams, their goals, what their family situation is, not only about the objective of what they're doing at work, but get to know them, as a person, and to connect with them. What are they challenged by? What are their concerns? What are their fears? And then CFR stands for conversations. So there's the conversation. Then it's feedback. So the feedback for the manager does a lot is simply say, well, what do you think? And takes all the emotion out of it, and sort of says, and then rewards. It says, I know you can do this. You've done this and this, and sort of acknowledges all the wonderful things they've done, so they feel like they can do it. And he gets them to engage and own the problem. And not only do they own the problem, but own the problem in a way that they are doing something and belonging to something bigger than themselves. Because in OKRs, it shows, each person shows where they belong in the group and who depends on them and who's counting on them. And it's just, it's the human nature that you can't take out of this. Okay, I mean, so often judgmental. It's not judgmental. That's the point. It's all about, who are you? How can I help? And you can do this. Is what bottom line is a little bit, and yes, getting you to say, okay, what do you need to face up to? What fears and do you need to face up to? So OKs and CFRs. So one of the things that I want to talk about as you set your objectives and your goals is remember back those 8th graders or 5th graders I told you, that I challenged them and their eyes just lit up with the challenge. See, you want to, I almost want to say, if you, with 5th to 7th graders, if you get them challenged and make it fun, you could lead them anywhere. Okay, and that's the key with you, is that the human aspect of you says, if it's fun and exciting, I can do this, and I can do it. In other words, you want to use your SMART goals to set it up so that you engage and your journey is fun. If it isn't fun and exciting and stuff like that, it isn't just all mechanical, force, push, should do this, you should do that. I mean, you're going to run into struggles. Okay, you gotta say, okay, I run into a struggle. Talk about it, figure out about it. It's okay to run into struggles. It's okay to do this. It's like exciting. Okay, and if you need to, break it down to a little something smaller or a little more doable. But your journey to where you want to go, you want to make exciting. And we just talked about how to get rid of the time pressure, but we also now are saying with the SMART goals, you got to put time pressure. So in these people that had to do these experiments had time pressure. They had the class to do them. But if you set it up, set it specific, talk about it, work about it, you're able to do that. You can engage and you can accomplish those things that are time sensitive. So making the journey fun is huge. And it's all that human part of it. It's the part that my wife does so great. She took all this, things that freezes most people, the judgmental stuff, the fears that they can, and she allows them to address them, to talk to them, and takes away the emotion from it and makes it all work. And that's what you need to do for yourself. And you do that by putting on the hats. But one of the hats you don't want to forget to put on is, how are you going to get engaged in this? If you find yourself engaged in accomplishing your goal and doing it, and it's exciting and it's fun, it's like, this is the greatest thing ever, I really love this, you're on target. If you find yourself forcing and pushing, you want to step back and say, whoa, slow down. Okay, this should be fun. My life should be fun. It should be challenging. It doesn't mean, one of the things we talked about, remember, with those pictures is the smokers those pictures that they created at level 2, that attainable. You see, they can see that it's attainable. You create those pictures and you see, I can do this. That's exciting. And during that time period, your brain might be struggling, working, hurt, all this kind of stuff. But it's never like you even feel that. Okay, you get in. So when that math class that engaged in finding those different ways, most people go, that's too much work. No, they were challenged by it. I don't know what made them challenged, but they just got into it and were figuring, what can I do? How can I do this? How else could we do this? And we're so focused on looking for a different way and searching for a different way, the exploration, the adventure of it all, and just went for it. Okay, so break your stuff down and set it up so that, like, it's an adventure, like it's something you can engage in, a challenge, that something that you find that you want to go for. Okay, the key is that unless it's exciting and something that you really, really can get into, you're going to be defeated. Okay, because life is about living a great life. Okay, and if somebody makes it horrible, they're going to beat you down and stop you. And you don't want to be the one beating yourself down. You want to put on the right hats and get those strategize and plans and figure out and get those pictures working for you and get all these things working for you so that you want to really accomplish what you set out to do. Okay, Pat Connor, By Coding University, training humans to train themselves.